All right, and we're live. Good afternoon, everyone. During COVID, I started a little Facebook Live program here called Out and About with our PD, and PD stands for Program Director, and that's me, Erica Narducci. I'm your Program Director at Cancer Support Community Delaware. When we were fully virtual, remember it wasn't that long ago, I started this video podcast to bring you relevant topics by interviewing some interesting people in our community that you might not have been aware of or seeing because you weren't out and about very much yourself during that time. Our last episode ran actually 2 years ago because about that time we were shifting our focus really back to being in person. I'm so thankful to mostly be back in person now for many of our classes and programs. June is Cancer Survivors Month, and I wanted to share an amazing and inspirational survivor story with you. So I felt it was time to bring back Out and About for you. And just by the way, here we define survivor as anyone who has heard the words, you have cancer. Because once you hear those words, you are surviving with cancer. So no matter where you are, in treatment, post treatment, whatever, you're a survivor. So we are celebrating you this month. And today I have here with me Malda Trey. She's the Community Health Intake Specialist with the YMCA of Delaware. Much like my own story, Malda's cancer diagnosis led her to be where she is today doing what she does. So let's hear Malda's story. Malda, let's start by kind of going all the way back to when you were first diagnosed with cancer. Tell us kind of the when, the what, the how about your diagnosis.
Sure. So leading up to November 3rd, 2019, I was a single mom trying to, keep my house afloat, not taking care of myself, knew I was very sick. And I ended up in the emergency room one Sunday afternoon, and they were testing, doing all of these things. I thought, okay, it's just an ulcer. You hate your job. You're so unhappy. Like, you're so stressed out. And I ended up with a diagnosis of stage 4 metastatic renal cell carcinoma. So I had an 18 centimeter tumor that had engulfed my kidney and had invaded an artery and had also spread to my lungs. So it takes the breath out of you. It takes the wind out of your sail. Your life just freezes in that moment. And my son and my mom were both in the emergency room at Christiana Care when I was given that diagnosis. And, there's part of you that thinks, okay, I need to start planning for my funeral. In your head, you're going through all of these different things. And I had the most incredible nurses and PAs in Christiana Care, and I was so blessed. And when they took me to the 5th floor for all the transfusions and follow-ups and CAT scans and everything, it's so surreal when they are talking. You hear them, but you just cannot wrap your mind around the fact that you have cancer, because we're so predisposed that cancer is a death sentence. And it's so crazy that I still get emotional. So I spent 5 days in the hospital, and then COVID happened. As they were planning for my treatments, how they were going to go about shrinking this massive thing so that I could have surgery to remove it, our world was flipped upside down with COVID. Hospitals were shutting down. So at the time, they had considered my surgery an elective surgery. It wasn't necessary for my survival. I disagreed greatly. So I decided, okay, well, I'll take my first treatment and then we will go and hunker down in between treatments at my family's place in Vermont, which was my solitude. That was my church. It was where I always liked to go to just regroup. And I got there and I got this phone call at like 11 o'clock at night. And they said, you have 1 day to get the surgery done. And so we hightailed it home. I did one more round of my miracle drug, Opdivo and Yervoy. And we were able to shrink the tumor enough that they were able to do surgery. It's just such a journey between having this massive closures of the world and trying to navigate cancer. I didn't have insurance. I didn't have money. I didn't have, thank God I had an incredible support system. My kids rallied, my oldest son and my daughter kind of ran my household while I was either sleeping or at a doctor's appointment or whatever it might be. And I had a great support with, thank God, from my parents as well, and a great oncologist that I lucked into. But navigating, trying to get on Delaware Medicaid because I lost my job. It was the job I hated. So I wasn't sad, but I was like, what am I going to do? How am I going to feed these kids? How am I going to take care of myself? How, I mean, the hospital emergency room bill alone was insane. And those incredible nurses and doctors in Christiana Care were like, listen, we have programs. And they were sending me, I mean, every day I was getting something new from them. Here, apply for this. Here, apply for that. And trying to navigate Delaware's Medicaid system was an incredible, horrific pain in the butt that nobody should have to go through. No one.
On top of also having cancer at the
Right,
same time.
right. Begging for, healthcare, trying to stay alive, all of these things. And it's just no cancer patient should have to go through those things. And so, I had this huge army behind me. They kept telling me, you have to make the call, make the call, make the call, you need to do. So I spent a lot of time making calls and hitting dead ends. And just from talking to people in the Livestrong program, when I started that during COVID, it wasn't easy. They were like, well, did you try going through this group? They can help you do the Medicaid applications. Did you try going? I didn't know any of this. My doctors weren't telling me any of this. I just was like, this was being with the people that I was with, my coach, Deb. Everybody knew something different that I didn't know. And all of a sudden my army just got a little bigger.
So how did you end up kind of in that at the Y in that Livestrong program? How'd you
So
fall into that?
my mother, God bless her soul, she was just talking to somebody at the Y when she was working out that morning, because one of the things that they don't talk about with cancer is you do have an isolation. I feel like a lot of people isolate themselves. And so I didn't like how I looked from the side effects from all the meds. I didn't like talking to people about it. And so I stayed home. I just cut off the world.
Mm.
And so she was at the Y, chit-chatting like she does. And one of the desk staff said, you need to get her into Livestrong. And she's like, well, what is that? And so she called me. I remember her calling me from her cell phone on the way home, and she's like, okay, here's the plan. We got to get you moving. We got to get you exercising. We got to do it. And I'm like, nope, bye. She calls me back. She's like, this is what you're going to do. I was talking to this person, and it turns out that, our kids, my grandkids go to school with somebody that they know. And so they kept talking about Livestrong, kept talking about it. And the fall program came along, and I enrolled against my will. Didn't want to do it. Didn't want to go talk to people. Didn't want to be social. And my coach, Deb, was I mean, she single-handedly drugged me out of my house every Tuesday and Thursday from 1 to 2:30. She would come up with an excuse as to why I needed to be there. She needed my help with something, or there was somebody that knew that was going to start, and she just wanted some extra support from somebody who, was going through active treatment. And that woman, she always saw what I could do before I could. And so when I started the program, I couldn't get up and down off the floor. I was 100 pounds heavier from treatment and steroids and all of these things. And when I finished the program, I was so much more mobile, but I was just mentally lighter. I knew that there were people I could talk to, people that weren't going to be like, so how you doing? Because it's hard to explain to people that have never gone through it what you're feeling, where you are physically, mentally. They just don't understand. And they look at you like you're broken. All right, now I'm not gonna cry. So the group that we had been in, that I had started in as a participant, we've lost two of those beautiful people. And so there's just so many different aspects of the program. You have the joy of going and meeting all of these people, but then you have the loss, whether you're participating or you're coaching. There's so many different things that go on in this group, but I wouldn't change it for the world. And Deb said to me, oh, they just canceled the class for the spring program because we don't have a coach. And I just blurted out so fast. I said, well, I'll do it. I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea. She's like, oh, I'll write up exercises for you. I'll help you. You can do it. You can do it. And so that's how I ended up coaching. And it was so cathartic for me to be with these people because they were looking at me the way I looked at Deb. And so the light bulb went on for me, and I just started gathering information, as much information as I could possibly come up with that I needed when I was going through treatment, or when, I started to kind of have my emotional decline. And so I just started gathering it all. And when people called, or when I was in class, people asking, I would just hand them little things that I've printed off and help them navigate it. And then I became the intake specialist.
That's great. I love, and I could totally appreciate that because I did kind of the same thing. Your passion because of your own experience makes you want to help others and help them through it too. That's awesome. Um, so I wanted to go back and ask about your kids. Tell us a little bit about how the journey was for them, because being a younger person, younger kids, how did they support you? You mentioned them a little bit that they were like your support system, but
They
what
were.
else can, yeah.
My oldest son, Jackson. See this? You're gonna get me. That kid He didn't go to work the entire week I was in the hospital after my diagnosis. He took care of my house, he took care of the animals, he took care of his brothers, he got them to school every day. He'd pick them up from school and then he'd bring them to the hospital. And they were in school. The younger two were in school, Carter and Joseph, when I was in the ER. No, I'm sorry, it was the following Monday. So they were in school and we hadn't really given them any idea what was going on yet because I wanted them to hear it from me. I didn't want them getting some crazy, overly emotional story of what was going on and what was going to happen because we didn't know what was going to happen. So Jackson, Morgan, Carter, and Joseph all came up Monday evening. And by this time, we've seen the oncologist and kind of have an idea as to what our plan of action was going to be. And all I'm thinking is, oh gosh, I'm going to lose my hair. I'm going to all of these. And because nobody answers those questions. No, I didn't know what stage it was. I didn't want to know. So the boys came up with Morgan and we had this, they all sat at the bed and I told them what was going on. And we just cried. We all cried. So, I said, we don't know what the, next week looks like or how we're gonna, jump into this treatment or what I'm gonna need from you guys, but I just need you guys to know that, it's business as usual. You go to school, you do all of these things. And then Jackson somehow managed to name my tumor to lighten kind of the mood in the room. And so they named it Todd. And so they would just be like, all right, it's time to evict Todd. When are we evicting Todd? And, so that's how they coped is they made a lot of jokes. And I remember Carter calling me. It was the day before I was released from the hospital. And he goes, listen, he's like, I love you, right? And I said, yeah, of course. And he's like, do you think it would be okay to tell my teacher that my mom has cancer and I cannot take this test? And I just laughed so hard. I'm like, Carter, take the darn test and then get up here so we can have grilled cheeses from, the dining, area. And we just howled about it. And so, it was always a big joke. It's time to evict Todd. But emotionally, they struggled. They really struggled because I was the only parent really that had an active role in their life. And so it was a little challenging for them and disappointing, I think, to see where people fall short because they don't know how to help. So they kind of distance themselves. So they learned some compassion. They learned some empathy. They learned to, prioritize their mental health through this. And so I found some great counselors for them. They did some remote counseling and that helped. But I think my outlook on everything, I had to be strong. I didn't let them see me cry. Like it was just one of those things where you have to be so stoic all of the time. And so you have your moments where you sit quietly and you cry. And I never knew if people were telling me the truth about diagnoses or what the doctor said, or, because my family is having these conversations. I'm not, because I was so looped with pain meds and everything else. And so my kids were present for a couple of the conversations, and Jackson grabbed my ankle and he's like, we got a good one, Mom. We got a good one. And so, they had a lot more faith in me than I had. And so we just kept trucking. I had great friends that dropped off food. And um, I think the hardest part for them was just was the fact that I was planning my funeral in my head. I was going through all of these things and they didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to, like, listen, I don't want you guys to spend any money. I said, I want to be cremated and put me in a chock full of nuts can and throw me on the mantle. Like, take me on your adventures. Like, this is what we're going to prep for. This is what we're going to do. And, they're like, shut up, Mom. You're good. You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. And I wish I had done that differently. Looking back at it now, I wish that I would have shown them the fear and the vulnerability, because I think I would have it would have emotionally helped me as well if we had all gone through, had those same emotions and just kind of talked through it together. But I didn't. I was so like, I got this, I got this, I got this, I got this. And, that was hard. I wish that I would have been a little more vulnerable with them.
Mm. In the moment, you do what you feel you have to do to hold things together.
Mhm.
But I love that they use so much humor to really kind of cope you as well, and those moments are beautiful when you all could just laugh about some silly little thing.
Yeah,
And of course, if you remember the timing we're talking about, this is now COVID is starting as you're in treatment. So now you have all these kids at home with you. So
which
you
was
really were living together, right?
for sure. And everything, looking back now, I just am a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. Everything, there's just a greater purpose, a great, that we have no control over. I got to be home with my kids during a pandemic. I, you know, I, we did things that we would have never done before because we were all under one roof. And so it was just, I hated my job. I was not taking the time for them or myself. And I am a firm believer that that was the moment God was like, listen, you need to get it together. I'm giving you one last chance. This is it. This is it. Seize the moment. And that's what we did.
Right, right. I do think for all of us, after we hear the words you have cancer and we get to the other side of treatment, we do live differently because we have a different appreciation for life and things.
We sure do.
So tell me a little bit about where you are now with, you finished active treatment. Obviously, it was a miracle drug. I think you used that word there because you're still here. Where are you at with scans and that kind of thing? What does it look like for you going forward?
So scanxiety never leaves. So if anybody asks, it never
That's
leaves.
right.
It just is always there. It just doesn't, cancer will always be in your mind forever. But it just sometimes it's a little further back and sometimes it's right in your face. And so I just had my 5-year CAT scan and I just had my labs done. And Carter read me the results of darn it, my results yesterday. And there's no evidence of disease.
Yay! Excellent.
Yeah.
That's what we like to hear. And you'll continue with blood work scans annually or biannually or
I'm
something
not
like that.
sure. I actually meet with the
Mm.
oncologist next week,
Mhm.
kind of see where we go because I have no idea. Um, I I really enjoyed going to see my oncologist every 3 weeks because I knew what was going on, because I had somebody there telling me, okay, this is what we're gonna do, and this is what we're gonna
Mhm.
do. And now I'm at like 6 months, in between, and I'm like, oh, I'm like, was that something I should worry about? Or, am I getting a cold, or is this, so it still gets to me every once in a while, but I'll find out how we proceed, or, what my future looks like as far as appointments and scans next week. So,
Yeah. It is challenging when you get into this true survivorship mode. Like you've had this comfort and this closeness with this amazing medical team, and now you feel like you're being pushed out the door.
right.
And yeah, that doesn't always feel great. But I mean, it's good news. You're doing well. You have no evidence of disease, but there was the safety net doesn't feel like it's quite there like it was.
Right.
So
I mean,
yeah.
but there's one thing, don't read Google. Don't put any of your symptoms into Google moving forward. That will just send you down a rabbit hole. But
Right.
your doctors and your care team is always there for questions. And that's one thing that I have, always supporting me, that I could just give them a call. And just say, listen, this feels really weird. Can I come in? And they are always there for you.
Right. So, again, back to the Live Strong program, it's amazing how that was a very important tool in your recovery and how you're part of the program now yourself. I love that several of our participants here know you and you were their Live Strong coach when they went through the program. So we have a lot of cross referring back and forth, which I love. Um, so, as we kind of close out, can you maybe tell us a couple things, one, two, three things that you love the most about the Live Strong program, about being part of that?
For sure. So for anybody that's interested in participating in the program, just go onto the WISE website. Our number is there. And, our next program, I think, starts in September. But the community that you meet, um, the it helps you to stay out of that pity party, because
Mm.
there's always somebody's story who is far worse than yours. And but you're all working together for the same goal, to just feel like you have some normalcy, get active. And there were some times in our classes that we didn't get very active. We all just sat and complained about one thing or another. Just like, the doctor just put me on a new diet, and now, I have to eat vegetables, and that would just send them out on it to a tangent. Um, and we just laugh. And laughter is such a good medicine. Our Live Strong program at the Y is open to everybody, no matter where your journey is. Whether it was when you were a child or when you were an adult, or you've been done for 30 years, or you're just now starting this navigation. And the people you will encounter, they will be your friends for life. They will have such a special, between like my Juanita and Cricket, they bring such an energy and life to people, and support. People that go through cancer, um, they support each other just completely differently than anything you can imagine. And they will drop whatever they need to hold your hand, or call you and say it'll be okay.
Mm.
So, having, your facility, Cancer Support Community of Delaware, for them to settle in after or even before, it's like, they're home away from home. And I've heard so many great things about the people that they meet through you as well, and just the connections, and I'm so proud to be a part of it.
Yeah. And it is truly a community, no matter what, how you're gathering or where you're gathering with other cancer patients. I think you're right. There is just a special connection there because they get it in a way that other people don't, what
For
you're going
sure.
through. Yeah. Well, thank you. And again, I just want to something you mentioned a couple times that you experienced that isolation and how that was very challenging for you, and participating that first time, even though it sounds like you were kind of dragged into it to live strong, it helped to really overcome that. So if, I encourage that to all of our cancer survivors that you are not alone. You do
Never.
not have to be alone. There are many great things to get out there and get involved in, and you can celebrate your survival with other cancer patients. So, well, thank you very much, Malda. I appreciate you sharing with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure. I still have yet to get over there and take a program, so I need to get over there and see the
Yeah,
facility. But I thank you guys for having open doors and just being there for the Livestrong participants that come your way.
thank you.